Well, hello friends and welcome to Johto. For the last couple of years, we have been doing monotype Nuzlocks on mainstream games on the channel, and the most common comment that I get is, hey, do a ROM hack. Hey, you should play a ROM hack. Hey, I want to see this run of a ROM hack. And today, friends, let me tell you, we are going to do our first attempt at Pokemon Storm Silver. Now, the reason I chose a Generation 4 ROM hack is for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I love the Johto region, but number two, if I look at the top 10 videos on my channel right now, as I'm recording this, 7 of 10 are from the Johto region. 2 of them are from Sinnoh, and 1 of them is from Unova, so that tells me that you guys really love the Johto region as much as I do. So, I put those two things together, the Johto region and a ROM hack, and that spit out Storm Silver or Sacred Gold. Now, if you guys want to play along with this, you can download the patch pretty easily on the internet, and then you just have to have a clean copy of Storm Silver, or Soul Silver rather, or Heart Gold. The patching software that you need is in the download, so it was very easy. I didn't even have to follow a tutorial, and we're going to attempt a monotype hardcore Nuzlocke. Those of you that can read the title already know this, but as I'm recording this, I haven't even done the title or the thumbnail yet. I chose to do a monotype challenge in this game, despite it being a difficulty ROM hack, for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, I'm no stranger to ROM hacks. About 8 years ago, I decided to get back into playing Pokemon. I downloaded a couple of emulators on my phone, which I can do because it's an Android. I know, peasant, but we can download emulators without jailbreaking our phones. For nostalgic reasons, I downloaded Generation 1 and Generation 2 and played through those games respectively, a couple of times. Played through Pokemon Crystal for the very first time. Got bored with that after a little while, so I downloaded, of course, Fire Red and the GBA emulator. We started playing through that game. And as we were finishing our run, an article across the Google News on my phone was talking about ROM hacks. I had no idea what ROM hacks were, so of course I started doing some research and quickly found that they're just fan-made games. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not. For the Game Boy Color, there's not a lot of options, but I did play some games like Pokemon Prism and of course Crystal Clear, which is a great game if you've never played it and love Gen 2, highly recommend it. Then of course I moved over to the Game Boy Advance games and found that there is a plethora of ROM hacks, some very good, some very bad, some mid. There's just a lot to play and you never know what you're going to get. And after we played through a bunch of those, of course I decided to move to the DS and try some of the quote-unquote newer graphics. And I did find my way to games like Storm Silver, Sacred Gold, Renegade Platinum, Vintage White even. Those are all games made by Drayano too, and they are very well made and very well thought out. This game is very well thought out, and I thought, hey, this is going to be very fun to play. Now, I haven't played ROM hacks in a Nuzlocke situation, so rather than going through all the different encounters that we could get in all the different areas, we're going to attempt a monotype challenge using only normal type Pokemon. That's going to give us some diversity, but also a pretty decent challenge, I think, going forward. This could be a complete disaster too as well. I have no idea. Just wish me luck. Now, there are a ton of changes made to this game. A lot of Pokemon have additional stats. They have different abilities. Level up movesets have changed. There are a ton of things that go on. It's not just a difficulty hack. We also run into most of the Sinnoh characters and some other favorites throughout the entirety of the story. They are expanding upon the lore, making sense of why there is 498 Pokemon available here in the Johto and Kanto regions. We can catch all the Pokemon. As a matter of fact, the end goal of this game, if you weren't Nuzlocking it, is to get your hands on Arceus, which is super cool. Cynthia also gives us a gift EV, which is going to be our official starter, so that's awesome. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the different changes and things throughout this game because we would be here forever. There is a changelog when you download this, and you can kind of read through some of the different things. Not everything's in there, but most of the things are. There's a Pokemon list, the changes that are made to them, the different routes that you can catch them in, so it's going to be very fun to play through this game. We get some great Pokemon and access to some pretty good ones early on, but it's still going to be quite a challenge because it is a Nuzlocke. All of the gym leaders that we face are going to have full teams of 6. After the rival battle in Azalea, that is going to be a battle with full teams of 6. There are other things that happen, like a battle with Lyra in Goldenrod, that I actually thought was vanilla. There's a battle with Giovanni atop of the radio tower. Again, I thought that was vanilla because I played through these games quite a few times. And when I started doing Nuzlocks of Soul Silver and Heart Gold, I was quickly mistaken and realized what was added. And it's just great. Ton of stuff to go through. We're not going to get through all of it, but I hope to do many more of these runs. Of course, we have to get through this one. Well, let's take a look at our official starter, Eevee, named Cat Dog. It's a cat dog fox thing, so I named it Cat Dog. It has a serious neutral nature and the adaptability ability. That powers up moves of the same type, so all of our normal moves do more damage. Tackle's gotten a buff. It is 50 base power and 100% accurate, so that is very nice. There are some small changes like that throughout that make this game very fun. We do, of course, have the normal storyline stuff where we're getting implicated by the cops as Professor Elm stands there staring at the top of my hat, wondering, why do mushrooms grow? Anyway, Lyra comes to our aid saying that we're not the ones that stole the Pokemon, and we have to rat out our rival, which we have, of course, nicknamed Algorithm, because we are trying to beat the Algorithm both in-game and in real life. The in-game Algorithm is going to be difficult going forward, but it is a solo mission. The real-life Algorithm is much more difficult, and it is not a solo mission. As a matter of fact, I need your help to defeat it, and it is very simple what you need to do to help me. You need to go down and like the video. Leave a comment. As I said last week, if you're coming back each and every week, just leave a little comment. Even a thumbs up or an exclamation mark is enough. It just helps. Hashtag Zap Weekly, if you watch these every week, is a great little thing to do. Of course, check to see if you're subscribed while you're there. A lot of people coming back each and every week are not. Share this video with anybody you deem fit. And of course, if you are subscribed and you want to get notified when these videos go live, hit that notification bell. Thank you guys again for the continued support. It has been an amazing ride so far. Each and every week, I enjoyed putting these videos out and seeing all of your lovely support. Without you guys, of course, it wouldn't be as much fun. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Probably my most favorite change in this ROM hack is some of the quality of life upgrades that we get. First and foremost, as we get taught how to catch Pokemon from Lyra, this is the normal cutscene here. She goes through her babble of back and forth in the grass. However, she doesn't have to show me how. She just gives me Pokeballs. We skip the catching tutorial. It's awesome. That little change is amazing. It's time to catch some Pokemon. On Route 29, we get Bird the Starly with a docile neutral nature. We're actually going to get a full team of 6 before we get to the first gym, which is really nice. On Route 46, we get a Rattata named Rat. It has the Hustle ability and a Jolly plus speed minus special attack nature. On Route 30, we get a Tailo that we named Bird 2. It has a Careful plus special defense and minus special attack with the Guts ability. In the Dark Cave, we run into a Teddiursa named Bear. It has a Hasty plus speed and minus defense nature. During the nighttime in the Sprout Tower, there's a 10% chance we can catch a Glameow or a Bidoof, and we managed to get a Glameow named Cat. It has a Naughty plus attack and minus special defense nature, and that is a full team of 6. Before taking on Elder Lee even. Elder Lee is our first major challenge and the first major change that we see. The Sprout Tower was not that easy to climb, as most of the sages in here don't have just Bellsprouts. The Chingling does some decent damage with Confusion and gets the Confusion, so we need to swap, and I decide to bring in Rat. Now this Chingling is not very scary, but Uproar does a serious amount of damage, over half, so we need to swap again. It's time to bring Cat Dog in, who tanks it much, much better, and we can fire off a super effective bite to get rid of the Chingling. As you see, Elder Lee has had a few upgrades to his team. The Bellsprout went down to a single wing attack, but the Chingling Uproar is a base 90 power special type move. Very strong for this early in the game. Hoot Hoot Has Aerial Ace, which is scary, but it's doing 10 HP of damage, so barring a crit, ooh, it did 12 ticks of damage that time, no matter, unpunished as we take it out. The Cherubi that he has comes out last, and we just bring Bird back in to tank a resisted magical leaf before we fire off a stab super effective wing attack to win, which grants us an evolution right before taking on Falkner and his flying types. As mentioned before, Falkner has a full team of 6 and he leads Doduo as I lead Rat. We set up a focus energy and then get tagged with a growl before one-shotting the Doduo with a critical hit. Quick attack. We learn Hyper Fang at level 16, so I've edged Rat to that level so we can get rid of Tackle, and out comes Farfetch'd. This Pokemon has been completely redone. It's flying fighting. It's a nasty Pokemon with Stab Aerial Ace that takes us down to 1 HP before we can KO it with another Hyper Fang. Missing that first Hyper Fang was really detrimental. As the Swablu comes out, I know we're not going to survive, and we sack the Rat. I'm sorry, little one. We then bring out Bear to take out the Swablu with a couple of Fury Swipes. I know this is crazy, we're using Fury Swipes, but it is what we have. The Uproar from Chatot is nasty, and we do some decent damage with Fury Swipes. If we get a 3-turn, we KO, but after we survive on 8 HP, we miss a Fury Swipes. That's not good. It's really, really not good. I swap in Cat on another Uproar that we tank on 3 HP before our Berry. A combination of Fake Out and Scratch here is going to take out the Chatot because I know Cat is much faster than other Pokemon. Jeez. The Murkrow comes out and our team is getting murked. So I swap into Cat Dog on a Feint Attack that we tank pretty nicely. Then we're outsped and hit with another one down to 7 HP. Oranberry activates and Tackle does a decent amount, but we don't outspeed and we don't KO, so we swap into Bird 2. Feint Attack takes us to half. We heal up with an Oranberry, take some chip from Poison, and KO the Murkrow with a Quick Attack. We level up at this point, so we gain a little bit of health back, and then of course lose some to the Poison, and out comes Pidgeotto. I swap into our evolved Bird that gets off an Intimidate, which is very nice. Aerial Ace does a decent amount of damage, and I thought about going on the offensive here, but you know what? I need to swap and get another Intimidate off. This is very risky. We get taken down to 4 HP after the chip and Aerial Ace, but we can get a second Intimidate with Bird, and Aerial Ace is doing a lot less damage. This was a great strategy. Seems a little odd when I did it, but if I hadn't done the 2 Intimidates, we would have never outpaced the Pidgeotto, especially with Roost, where we would have lost more than one Pokemon in this battle. Losing the Rat here is no big deal. Losing any other Pokemon would be a huge deal. And just take a look at the team. This is after the first gym battle. Everybody has had their butt kicked here. Well. This may have been a mistake. It's now on to some typical Johto stuff where we're going to rock smash these rocks for some shards so we can get our hands on a bunch of berries before we go any more forward in this game. Rock Smash has actually been changed to a base 60 power fighting type move, making it a pretty decent move to put on some Pokemon, especially Bear here. Hey, look at that. There's a red shard. We need to collect a ton of those. We can reset the rocks simply by going into the gatehouse and making our way back, so we're going to be here for a while. Hatching the egg from Professor Elm here, we get Togepi that we named Bird. It has a Rash plus special attack and minus special defense nature, along with the Super Luck ability instead of Hustle. That's a nice little change. I still think I would have preferred Serene Grace, but I will take this Pokemon as it is a little bit buffed, and it is a great Pokemon. It's going to be one of the few special attackers that we get, so it's definitely going on the team. After some training and some running around, we get another evolution with Bird, evolving into a Togetic. At this point, we can get our hands on a couple of different Pokemon. In the Union Cave, we get a Whismur named Loud Rabbit. It has a quirky neutral nature and, of course, the soundproof ability. On Route 33, we caught a Apom named Monkey. It has a hardy neutral nature and the Runaway ability. We then catch a Baniri in the Ilex Forest with a bashful neutral nature named Bunny, and they went into the ROM-haxed box, which is the wrong box, so we need to put them into box 1. But that is the next 3 Pokemon that we could get our hands on. I don't know that I'm going to use any of them, but I wanted to show them off nonetheless. Now I have 3 flying types on my team, so you would think that the next gym against a bug type trainer would be relatively easy. However, let's take a look at Bugsy's team. He's got a Butterfree holding the Damp Rock with Rain Dance to prevent the fire type Onslaught. He also has a Heracross that has the exact same thing. Heracross has Stab Counter, which we can play around, and then he has a Pinsir with Vital Throw. His Beedrill is decent as well with U-Turn and Twin Needle and Sludge Bomb. Great stab options. And then of course his Ace Scyther is Technician and has Stab Wing Attack, which is a nasty move. He also has Stab U-Turn, Swords Dance this time, instead of Focus Energy, and Quick Attack. Looking at this team here, it is going to be a very, very scary battle, and I am prepping for this by getting Bird 2 poisoned, because I think we're going to need the Guts boost. Bugsy leads Butterfree, and I lead Bird 2 that is pre-poisoned. I go for Focus Energy turn 1, and it sets up the Rain, which is perfectly fine, and then a Stab Super Effective Wing Attack takes it out. We're just hoping for some crits throughout this run. His next Pokemon out is going to be a Yanma, and I forgot to mention this thing has Ancient Power for Flying type coverage, but we one-shot it with a Wing Attack, so it doesn't matter. Out next is Beedrill. Sorry, Beedrill, you go down to a single Wing Attack, and that is 3 for 3 with Bird here. Once I see the Scyther that comes out next, I panic just a little bit. We're losing a lot of health because of the poison, so I decide to swap into Cat Dog, which may have been a huge mistake as we get hit with that Technician Wing Attack to 4 HP. We heal up a little bit with a Citrus Berry, and then I go for Quick Attack, but we're out-prioritized as Scyther goes for a Quick Attack, KOing Cat Dog. Well, damn. Cat then comes out and goes for a Fake Out, and then we go for a Hail Mary Hypnosis, which connects. Beautiful. This Pokemon could have swept a lot of our team. We can then bring in Bird, get off an Intimidate, which is great. Scyther stays asleep, and we go for Wing Attack that takes it into low red health. After the Citrus Berry, it wakes up and goes for Swords Dance, throwing the battle, and we KO with another Wing Attack. The next Pokemon that comes out is Heracross, but because it is fighting and bug, it's quad weak to Wing Attack and gets one shot. His last Pokemon is Pinsir. Storm Throw, I believe, is negative priority and always crits. I may be wrong, but we survive a crit, yes, on 7 HP before our berry, and we can KO the Pinsir after the Moo Moo Milk with 2 more Wing Attacks. Jeez. And as a reward, we get a Gym Badge and another evolution with Bird 2 evolving into a Swellow. The rival battle here in Azalea, I'm not actually that worried about as Bear can learn Rock Tomb that we found in Union Cave. It connects, gets the speed drop, and now we can take out the Murkrow with a Rock Smash. Very nice. Bear is actually a great counter here as Kadabra comes out and goes for Disable, but we can KO it with a Feint Attack. Very nice. Bear then tries to learn Sweet Scent. We're not going to learn Sweet Scent. What do we need that move for? And Algo sends out Bayleaf. I don't have anything super effective against it, so we swap into Bird as it's going for a nature power that is Earthquake. Well, very nice. Wing Attack does a bunch of damage and then Grass Whistle connects, putting us to sleep. I don't want to deal with the sleep turn, so I swap into Bird 2 on another missed nature power Earthquake and KO the Bayleaf with a Wing Attack. His last Pokemon is a Ghastly, but it gets outsped in one shot from a Wing Attack. Very nice. Some of these cameos that we get to see, like Gardenia here in Ilex Forest, are just a little, I don't even know what to really say. You know what? I'm just going to take the Grass Knot TM and we're going to dip out. Thank you. Thank you. We run into Cynthia again, and as I said before, I'm probably not going to show very many more cameos and all the different changes and stuff. We're just going to play through the game and note things that are important to this run. She does give us the odd keystone, which we can take back to the Slowpoke well and get our hands on a Spirit Tomb if we were doing a Ghost or Dark type run. We have some encounters. On Route 34, we run into Bulldog the Snubbull that has the Intimidate ability. Very, very nice. It also has a Careful plus Special Defense and minus Special Attack nature. The OG Bird we found on Route 35. It has an Impish plus Defense and minus Special Attack nature. Keen Eye ability, probably not going to put this thing on the team, but I show it off nonetheless. And the last Pokemon that we found on Route 36 is Stantler named Doe. It also has an impish plus defense and minus special attack nature. I'm probably not going to show many more of these encounters as there is a lot of them. Bulldog evolves into a Gramble, and now we have to take on the big bad Whitney. Whitney's got a full team of normal type Pokemon, not just a Clefairy and a Miltank, and things are going to get a little dicey. We go for a Headbutt turn 1 and then it gets disabled. We can take out the Lickitung with a Rock Smash from there. You will notice that the team has changed. I have a little bit of fodder on the team as well as 3 Intimidators. I go for Protect so the Lopunny hurts itself from the jump kick, and then we take it out with a Rock Smash. That was kind of the bigger threat on her team gone with the super effective fighting type move, and then her biggest threat, Miltank, comes out next, so it's going to be swapping around to get off some Intimidators as we have 3 of them. No hard switch from Bird as I taught it U-turn to bring in Doe. Body Slam does pretty minimal damage, and then we go for a Confuse Ray to burn the Lumberry. Beautiful. We get hit with another Body Slam, no paralysis, which is great, and then we confuse the Miltank. Very nice. It hurts itself in confusion, which is even better, and then we connect with a Hypnosis. Now we're going to swap back into Bulldog, that is -3 from Intimidates. Not really worried about what this thing can do at this point. We're also female, so we can't get attracted. We're just going to fire off some Rock Smashes to try to take this thing out. Whitney does have some Super Potions, which is annoying. We take Miltank into low red health, and it wakes up to hit us with a Body Slam through confusion, but we take it out with 1 more Rock Smash. Very nice. Biggest threat gone. Out next, she's going to send Stantler. The Intimidate is annoying, so I need to swap, and I'm just going to bring in Bird to get an Intimidate of our own off. We do get hit with a Hypnosis. I don't want to deal with the sleep here, so I'm going to swap into Doe, so it's a you versus me type thing, as we take this thing to -2 with Intimidate. I do go for a Confuse Ray, and Stantler breaks through, hitting us with a Stomp to 14 HP. Forced to swap here, back into Bulldog to get this thing to -3. Snaps out of confusion and hits us with a Stomp. After a Rock Smash takes it low, it connects with a Hypnosis using my own strategy against me. At this point, -3 isn't going to do much to us, so I just stay in tanking the Stomps as I try to go for a Rock Smash. I get knocked all the way down to 32 HP before I finally wake up and take out the Stantler. Very annoying. With the Shell Bell, though, we're healing up a little bit of health as we do damage, and out next is Wigglytuff. We take it low with a Rock Smash, and it just goes for Wish. Whitney then goes for another Super Potion, delaying the battle. We do a Rock Smash down to low red health, and then Wish comes true, healing the Wigglytuff up again. By the time we take this damn thing out, we are sitting pretty healthy at 57 HP. As the Clefable comes out, that is a normal type. Anyway, Citrus Berry heals that thing up just a little bit. It goes for Reflect, so Rock Smash doesn't do that much, taking it to red health. And Whitney apparently has another Super Potion after a Water Pulse does minimal chip. I thought she was out of potions. No matter, we take the Clefable back down into low health. We get tagged with 1 more Water Pulse, no confusion, and we take it out with a Headbutt because we were out of Rock Smash power points. At the Voltorb flip game, you can actually purchase a Smeargle or a Porygon here. That's interesting. We definitely need to do some grinding here for the Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Ice Beam TMs as they've been reduced in price. But also we could get our hands on another encounter here. That's for a later time. We head to the Goldenrod Underground where we have to take on Lyra, and we should have done this before we took on Whitney. A Headbutt from Bulldog takes Nidorina low, and then we get hit with Thunder. We don't activate Poison Point as we take it out with 1 more Headbutt, and out comes Meryl. Her team is not that scary. Her Ninetales could be problematic, but I think we're going to get through this relatively easy. We don't one-shot the Meryl, and it sets up a double team, and then Lyra uses a Lemonade to heal. Interesting. We one-shot because Headbutt was a range. The Ninetales comes out. Like I said, this thing could be problematic, but I go for Protect on a Confuse Ray, which was a good read. Ninetales goes for Safeguard, and we hit it with a Headbutt. Citrus Berry heals it up, and we're actually at a speed tie as we outspeed and knock it out with a Headbutt from there with a crit. Roselia is last out, so we're going to swap into Bird. Bird is actually holding a Cherry Berry from the battle with Whitney, so the stun spore gets shook off because of the cherry berry. I was worried about paralysis from body slam, and we can one-shot with a wing attack, winning us a relatively easy battle against Lyra. We can now buy all the stones from the Pokeathlon. They changed it to where we can get the Dawn Stone, the Dusk Stone, and the Shiny Stone. We do not need the National Dex, so that means we're going to have to, of course, grind the Pokeathlon, but we can get our hands on a Shiny Stone and use that to evolve Bird into a Togekiss. In the Burn Tower, we have a battle with Algo, and I'm going to show you just how good Bird is. Shockwave one-shots the Murkrow. Can't remember where we put this TM up, as I'm voiceovering this well after we did the run. Extrasensory then takes out the Haunter, and that's 2 in, 2 out. Kadabra is out next, and this Pokemon is a little bit more annoying because we are not a physical attacker. Tri-Attack unfortunately leaves this thing on low health, and then disables Tri-Attack, so now we have to go for a Shockwave after a Psybeam connects, KOing the Kadabra. His next Pokemon is a Magby, and I noticed that he only has 5 Pokemon, so I was wrong. It's after this battle that everybody has a full team of 6. Extrasensory does not KO the Magby as we get hit with a Smokescreen. This is perfect. I wanted to bring out one of my 2 other flying type Pokemon like Bird or Bird 2. Unfortunately, Smokescreen is annoying, so I just U-turn out, leaving Magby on a sliver to bring in Bird 2. We get hit with an Ember that would have been nice if it would have burned, but doesn't matter. We take out the Magby, and now as the Bayleaf comes out, we can outspeed in one shot with a stab super effective wing attack. On the surface, Morty should be quite the challenge, but we have Bear and Shadow Claw. He does pull his Duskull immediately, and we one-shot the Shuppet with a Shadow Claw that you can find inside Ecruteak City, and you can also get from the Goldenrod department store. We pivot into Bird on a Mist Hypnosis, and then we take out the Haunter with an Extrasensory. This puts us in very good position as his ace comes out. We don't actually one-shot with Extrasensory, which is scary because Gengar has Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt leaves us at 23 HP. Ooh, that was very close. We take out the Gengar with an Extrasensory, and this is going to bring out Misdreavus. Misdreavus has Power Gem, so I'm going to pivot into Bulldog to take this thing out with a couple of bites. Power Gem does very minimal damage, and then we get a flinch from Bite, which is very nice, and Misdreavus goes down. Now, right now, we're at 1 minute recording time as the Sableye comes out, and I still have 3 minutes of fight left. That's because Sableye has Recover. It also annoyingly has Torment, so we can't use the same moves twice in a row. We spend the next 3 minutes swapping between Pokemon, trying to KO the damn Sableye, which has no super effective moves against it, and ultimately we do finally get Bear back in, but it was a process to get him in, and the Sableye is finally out of Recover power points when this happens. Now as Bear comes in, he does get hit with an Aerial Ace, which is perfectly fine, and then we get tagged with a Torment, so now we can't use the same moves twice in a row. We take the Sableye low with a Shadow Claw, and then a Rock Tomb finishes it off. I thought this put us in perfect position as the Duskull comes out, because we can use Shadow Claw, but unfortunately it doesn't KO, and then we get burned. The burned is cured off with the Lumberry. We can't use the same moves twice in a row. Morty uses a Hyper Potion. We do some chip with Rock Tomb, putting it in a pretty good range to KO it with a follow-up Shadow Claw. That battle was more annoying than it needed to be. We do get a couple of evolutions here though, first off with Bear evolving into a very beastly Ursaring. Next is Bird evolving into a Staraptor. Such a great Pokemon. On Route 37, we actually ran into a Zangoose that we named Mongoose. It has a lonely plus attack and minus defense nature, the immunity ability. This was a 5% encounter. Very happy to get it. Chuck and his fighting type Pokemon are very scary, but what's even scarier is Bird 2 with Guts and Stab Facade. This is a busted ass move, and we've used it before. Unfortunately, the chip damage from Poison is going to put us in a position where we can't one-shot his entire team. The Primeape goes down, both of the Hitmons go down, and then his Ace Poliwrath that comes out next are going to be one-shot with Guts Boosted Facade, but the Breloom has Mach Punch, and his Hariyama has priority fake out, kind of breaking our streak here, so we need to come up with a little bit of a strategy. Bird is swapped in to get the Intimidate, tanks a Mach Punch very nicely. Having 3 flying types on the team that take neutral damage from fighting types is very nice. An Aerial Ace after another Mach Punch takes out the Breloom, and out comes Hariyama. It is a swap into Bulldog for an Intimidate. We tank the Fake Out, which is fine, and then we pivot back into Bird. Bird gets another Intimidate off, and we tank a Cross Chop, which is nasty. Citrus Berry keeps us healthy. I thought about attacking for just a minute, but I decided to U-turn out, and we're going to bring in Bird and take a Cross Chop, and then fire off an Extra Sensory to take this Pokemon out. I decide to go for a Yawn last minute as I'm scared that Extra Sensory won't take it out, and it doesn't. It leaves it at a Sliver as we're tanking Cross Chops to the face. Again, a Citrus Berry heals us up, and Hariyama goes to sleep as Chuck uses a Hyper Potion. This was a smart move on my part, as we can take out the Hariyama after some potions with a couple of extra sensories. Never in any real danger, but this was a very scary battle on the surface. The Quick Cat evolves into the Fat Cat, Purugly. Beastly Pokemon, I say that all the time. In Storm Silver, the level cap has been mixed around, so Jasmine is actually the next trainer that we have to take on, which is proper sequential order. She's also got a very decent team here, leading out a Metang, and I lead Bear. Bear's got the Choice Band that we got back in the Cienwood Pokemon Center, so we can easily take this thing out with a couple of crunches, and out next is her Fortress. We can then swap in Bird. The move relearner's also been moved to Cienwood, so we can teach Heat Wave and do some nasty damage. Now the Choice Specs have not been moved, they're still at the Lake of Rage that we can't get to yet, so I thought about switching up moves here against the Magneton, ultimately deciding just to go for a Heat Wave. We're not locked in, so it's nice to have the option. As Steelix comes out, we do switch up for an Aura Sphere that is going to one-shot this Pokemon. Great defense, terrible special defense. Our next Pokemon is a Skarmory. It's a very good team here. It delays the inevitable going for a Protect, and ultimately we take this thing down with a base 100 power super effective Heat Wave. Our last Pokemon is a Bronzong that has Heat Proof, so we're going to swap it up for some neutral Aura Spheres. It does about a third, and then we get hit with a nasty Psychic, but we're going to outpace the Bronzong, especially after the second Aura Sphere. Bronzong goes for Rain Dance, throwing the battle, so that is Jasmine defeated. After defeating Jasmine, the Battle Frontier actually opens up in this game. Unfortunately for us, the level cap here is still 50, so we're not going to be able to grind out anything in the Battle Frontier, but this is a nice change of pace. I think after we get done with Pryce and all of the Team Rocket stuff, we're easily going to be able to come back here, do some grinding, and get our hands on some decent things like the battle items. The Flame Orb would be great to get our hands on. Some of the different TMs like Earthquake and Stone Edge, Brick Break. Yep, we're going to do some grinding eventually. Of course, we can't yet, but it's nice that we have the option. Heading to the Rocket Hideout in Mahogany, the Grunts here are not actually underleveled, as the Raticate is very close to the level in which we are at this current moment. We did have to go do some stuff at the Safari Zone with Team Rocket. I didn't show it. It was very easy, a bunch of double battles, and that was after we healed up the Ampharos. This game forces you to go to all the different areas and battle different people. It is very linear in progression, but it also keeps you right at the level cap. Nice progression, in my opinion. Another change that was made is we have to chase the Chatot instead of a Murkrow. To me, this just makes a hell of a lot more sense than chasing a Murkrow around that is supposed to mimic Giovanni. The Chatot is better fitting. Pryce and his ice types are actually going to be a little bit tricky to deal with. Abomasnow whipping up the hail turn 1 is very annoying for some Pokemon in the back, but a quad super effective Fire Punch that Mongoose learned via the move relearner in Cienwood one-shots. We don't need to learn False Swipe, and out next is Mamoswine. I'm going to swap here into Bird on what should be an Earthquake. It is. We now have the Choice Specs, and we can rip Choice Specs boosted Aura Spheres to start knocking out the next few Pokemon. Mamoswine is going to go down. Glalie is going to come out next after the Hail Chip. We're going to be able to one-shot it with an Aura Sphere. The next Pokemon should be Dugong, and it should go down to a single super effective Aura Sphere that is boosted via the choice specs. After that, unfortunately, the Lapras is not going to go down to a single Aura Sphere, and his last Pokemon is a Frostlass that of course is immune. So as the Lapras comes out, it's going to rip some nasty blizzards, so I need to swap, and that is why Doe is on the team. We get off an Intimidate that doesn't matter, and Blizzard drops us low. Chip from Hail takes us even lower, and we get a Confuse Ray off, but unfortunately, it's not enough as Lapras breaks through the confusion and takes out Doe. That was very unfortunate, but now we can bring Bear in for free. That is pre-poison because of our Guts ability, and rip a nasty headbutt to over half. Citrus Berry puts this thing just at the range where I don't know if we can KO it with one more headbutt, but we might as well risk it. Why not? We've got some Pokemon to choose from, and we get a critical hit, so it doesn't matter. The last Pokemon, as mentioned before, is Frostlass. Bear's locked in because of the choice band, so we need to swap, and this is where Cat is going to come out. Once again, we're going to have to tank some nasty attacks like Blizzard. That takes us to almost half, and then Chip takes us low. A Shadow Claw does half. Frostlass hits us with a Thunderbolt down to 3 HP before our Berry. Luckily, we outspeed because we are very fast, and we can take it out with another Shadow Claw. Every time I play the remake of Gen 2, I say it, and I will say it again, the Team Rocket outfit is just so amazing. All these different Pokemon standing next to us look so cool, and I wish this was something we could make permanent. Unfortunately, we are confined to this little bit of area in Goldenrod, so we're going to walk around and enjoy it. Petrel's team in the radio tower normally consists of coughings and a wheezing that like to explode. His team this time is very different, and really Bird is a great counter to the first couple of Pokemon. He doesn't really have anything that's too scary. We can sit here and pivot through our Pokemon and take his out with relative ease. The Toxicroak was kind of the scariest Pokemon as it has stab fighting type moves, but it went down with relative ease. Things like immunity on Mongoose makes it a great switch into Skuntank, and really I'm not going to bore you with too much more. We're just going to get to the rival battle in the basement. The rival battle in the Rocket Hideout is a little bit scary. The Honchkrow goes for Protect, delaying the inevitable, but ultimately taken down with a Thunder Punch. Very nice. Magmar is then baited out next because it has Focus Blast, which is a very scary move, but it is also very inaccurate. We swap into Bird, and Focus Blast misses, and then we can fire off a Choice Specs boosted Tri-Attack that doesn't get the one-shot. That's pretty crazy as we get burned, which doesn't matter on our special attacker, and we can take out the Magmar. Pretty tanky Pokemon. Seadra comes out and threatens with an Ice Beam, so it's a pivot back into Mongoose. We tank the Ice Beam very nicely on the swap in, and then can one-shot with the aforementioned Thunder Punch. That's 3 in and 3 out now for the back half of his team. Gengar is a little bit scary, so I'm going to swap into Cat. Cat swaps into a Thunder that takes it all the way down to 11 HP and gets the paralysis. Well, time to switch. Bear comes in on a Giga Drain, which is very nice, and then a Thunder misses, so we can take out the Gengar with a Crunch. As the Alakazam comes out, I have no idea what I was thinking here, thinking I could outspeed it, and we get taken down to 9 HP before taking it out with another Crunch. Ugh, that was very, very risky. What is also risky is what happens with Meganium. I swap into Bird, and Bird swaps into a Body Slam that does a little bit of chip, and of course gets the paralysis. Why wouldn't it? Now I'm trying to go for these 2-turn flies after a Reflecta setup, and this is dumb. We could easily get paralyzed, we could miss. It's stupid what I do here. Meganium sets up a Swords Dance, which is very scary as we miss a fly and get hit with a nasty Body Slam to 18 HP before U-turning out. Why risk all of that when I could have just brought Bulldog in, get off and Intimidate, Reflect goes down, and we can outspeed in one shot with Fire Fang from the health that it was at. Now normally this is the point where we would just head to Blackthorn City because the rest of the Rocket stuff isn't that crazy, but in this ROM hack they have changed what happens at the top of the radio tower, and it's a neat little surprise, if you will. We've talked about it, it's not like I'm hiding anything, I'm just hyping it up. So first off, we have to battle Archer, which is pretty standard, and he leads a Zangoose with close combat. I have a Chompleberry to weaken that, The defenses lowered makes it so we can one-shot with Rock Smash from Bulldog. With the Intimidate, that was a great little plan there to avoid that Pokemon. Machamp is also very scary, but we swap into Bird. This Machamp does not have No Guard, it has Guts, so we can tank the Cross Chop and then go for Fly, as Stone Edge is not going to hit us, and we can one-shot. His biggest threats on his team are now gone. Now we just got to mop up and do a little bit of cleanup, if you will. We can U-turn out for a little bit of chip on the Gyarados and swap into Mongoose on an Ice Fang, which does a decent little bit of damage, and then a quad super effective Thunder Punch, of course, one-shots. It has to. That's Pokemon Law. The next Pokemon Law is when Scizor comes out, a quad super effective Fire Punch one-shots it. That was a nice 2 clean KOs from Mongoose, and this Pokemon is amazing. It's also amazing to see these different Pokemon on these different teams. Now Drapion's a little bit scary. We go for a Stab Slash, and Cross Poison takes us low, activating our Berry. I don't want to risk Mongoose here, so it's a swap, but into what? I really debated bringing Cat in here for a minute, but ultimately settle on bringing in Bird for the Intimidate. We take a Crunch on the swap in, and then can U-turn out for some chip. This wastes the Citrus Berry, as we bring in Bird to set us up for the final stretch of this battle. Drapion heals up and hits us with a Cross Poison, and then outspeeds to hit us with a Crunch, doing a little bit of damage between both of them, and then we take out the Drapion with a Tri-Attack from there. This brings out Archer's last Pokemon, a Houndoom that has a Focus Sash. So we're not going to be able to one-shot this thing no matter, so we just go for a Stab Tri-Attack, and it takes this Pokemon all the way to low red health, but not quite its Focus Sash. It's in a Heal Lock after missing the Fire Blast, going for a Hyper Potion. Tri-Attack takes it back low, Archer uses another Hyper Potion, we hit it with another Tri-Attack, this time breaking the Focus Sash. So it's a little bit of a range there that we're playing with, but we ultimately come out the victor with one more Tri-Attack. Now normally you would just leave the radio tower at this point, but Giovanni shows up saying that all of Team Rocket is a disgrace and we are forced to battle. He leads a Persian, and of course Bulldog is up front. We get off that Intimidate and then get hit with a priority Fake Out. Slash does a little bit of damage and Headbutt takes it to half. Another Slash to 35 HP, but we come out the victor as we take out the Persian. Kangaskhan is a pretty scary Pokemon, so I'm going to swap into Bird. We get hit with a Double Edge on the swap in, doing a decent bit of damage and some chip back to the Kangaskhan. Sucker Punch sucks, but close combat one-shots from there. Bird is such an amazing Pokemon. You guys know it, I know it. Seeing the Rhyperior come out next is a little bit scary, so we U-turn out. I'm going to bring in Cat. I need to do a little bit more chip because I don't think we'll one-shot with Aura Sphere from here. Stone Edge takes us to 12 HP. The Cat may be fast, but it is not as bulky as it is thick. Anyway, Bird can come in on a Hammer Arm and then ultimately take out the Rhyperior with an Aura Sphere. Very nice. I lost my train of thought completely as the Tauros comes out. We get hit with an Intimidate, which doesn't matter, and I didn't know we would be outsped and drop to 7 HP before we can one-shot with a Choice Specs boosted super effective Aura Sphere. Well, Nidoking then comes out, and since we're locked in, we got to do some pivoting, but into what? Our team is getting pretty decimated at this point, so I swap into Mongoose, who tanks over half of his health from an Ice Beam. So I can't stay in with Mongoose, and we bring in the only healthy Pokemon, Bear. Bear, of course, gets hit with an Ice Beam on the swap-in that we tank much nicer. But again, we don't have a lot of moves here, so we just go for that Choice Band boosted Headbutt, and we get some flinches. Nice. We also activate the Poison Point, activating our Guts ability at this point, but I decide to do something cheeky and swap into Bird on a full restore. With the Choice Specs, we should be able to one-shot the Nidoking with an extra sensory, and we do. Very nice. And as the Nidoqueen comes out, we should be able to one-shot this thing with an extra sensory as well. And we don't. But we flinch the Nidoqueen, so all is not lost. Oh, that was so risky. Now in our travels, we've picked up a couple of things like the upgrade in the Dubious Disc. You don't need to equip these to Pokemon to get them to evolve, you just need to use them on the Pokemon, so I bought the Porygon from Goldenrod, and we're adding a new member to the team. The reason for the last minute addition is because with a moveset of Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, along with the potential level up here to gain Tri-Attack. 3D, the Porygon Z absolutely murks Clair's team. Dragonair falls to an Ice Beam, the Gyarados is swapped in, Intimidate does not matter, it quad super effective Thunderbolt takes it out. As I said, we are going to gain a level in this battle and learn the stab option Tri-Attack. Just a great Pokemon. Ice Beam takes out the Dragonair, and that is kind of most of her normal team right there. She has an additional Salamence and an Altaria, but they're quad weak to Ice Beam, so we're going to absolutely destroy her team. Kingdra is the only Pokemon that we can't one-shot, and unfortunately none of my Pokemon, at least on this team, can learn Dragon Claw or Dragon Pulse. Both TMs are available to us. Our last Pokemon is the Kingdra, but we are definitely prepared for this as we fire off a nasty stab Tri-Attack for well over half, activating its Citrus Berry. We get hit with a Swagger, but I was prepared for that with a Lumberry, curing off the confusion and ultimately taking out the Kingdra, never taking a tick of damage. Very nice. Looking at the Kimono girls in the room, there are 7 instead of 5, so I bet we're going to have to take on a Glaceon and a Leafeon. Bird is going to be a great counter here against most of these evolutions. We can one-shot the Umbreon with a close combat. Next up is the Espeon that gets taken out from a U-turn. Very nice. And then we do have to battle the Leafeon, but Leafeon is taken down with a stab super effective Fly. Glaceon is 4th out, like I thought, and a close combat takes it out. Very nice. Now we're into the regular evolutions, starting off with Flareon, which we U-turn out. We bring in Bird. We tank 2 Fire Blasts and fire off a Tri-Attack that unfortunately leaves the Flareon on low health. So we swap into Cat, who tanks another Fire Blast and then can KO with a Fake Out. Jolteon is next. It's a U-turn out for well over half, so we bring Cat in on a Mist Thunder and can take out the Jolteon with a Fake Out. The last one, of course, is Vaporeon, so once again it's a U-turn out. We bring in 3D. Vaporeon just goes for an Acid Armor, so a Thunderbolt takes it out. The last battle before taking on the Elite Four is a battle with our rival Algo, and once again he leads a Honchkrow, but this time we have Ice Punch to take out the Honchkrow. Alakazam does outspeed and threaten with Focus Blast, but we have a held Chople Berry to weaken that. A critical hit still would have taken us out, but a stab return takes out the Alakazam instead. That was a very close call. Losing Mongoose would have really sucked. Magmortar also goes down to a stab return, and that is 3 in and 3 out very nicely. The Kingdra is a lot more of a problem and a much bigger threat, as we are crippled by having an HM Pokemon on us. We swap into Bird and unfortunately get hit with an Ice Beam, risking a critical hit there, so we just U-turn out. That was very, very dumb, but we swap into Bulldog, who can tank the Ice Beam much nicer. We go for a stab headbutt, but we get hit with a Hydro Pump down to 12 HP. God, the risks and the... oh, the Pokemon that have almost been KO'd throughout this run has been immense. A swap into 3D on a Dragon Pulse is perfectly fine, and we can get rid of the Kingdra with a Thunderbolt from there. I do not have the choice specs on 3D at this point, so we can swap up our moves, taking out the Gengar with a Psychic, which can be found in the Runes of Alph, which is really nice. Meganium comes out and we go for Ice Beam. It doesn't actually one-shot, but he throws the battle going for a Swords Dance, so we come out the victor with one more Ice Beam. Will is first up for the Elite Four, and we lead Cat against the Jinx. The plan here is to Fake Out and then knock this thing out, but Fake Out almost knocks it out with a critical hit. So we burn a full restore of Will's, and then we one-shot with a Shadow Claw. I didn't think Shadow Claw would one-shot, so that's why we went for Fake Out. No matter, Lunatone is out next, and we go for a Shadow Claw that does well over half, and then we get hit with a Stab Psychic that does over half. So we were dead to a crit. No matter, we take out the Lunatone, and next is Gardevoir. We can one-shot this Pokemon, that crit didn't matter. His next Mon out is Slowbro, and being a bro, we gotta swap out into Bird. From this point, we will tank a Surf, and with the Choice Specs and Shadow Ball, we should one-shot the rest of his team. We also outspeed, which is really nice, so as the Soul Rock comes out, we can one-shot it, and his last Pokemon, of course, is going to be a Xatu. Gotta stay true to the original team, but we outspeed and one-shot with a super effective Shadow Ball. There's a Kadabra in the back of the room that allows us to go to whichever room we want to, so we don't have to do these guys in order. We don't have to go to Koga, we could just go to Bruno or Karen. I think we're just going to stick with the normal layout and head to Koga next. Now Koga's up next and he leads with a Venomoth. It is Bug Psychic in this game, not Poison type, but we do one-shot with a super effective Fire Punch from Mongoose. Toxicroak is then out next, so it's going to be a swap into Bird for that Intimidate, and the neutral Cross Chop is going to do a decent little bit of damage. We can then go for Fly. Toxicroak misses a Cross Chop and then tries to go for Sucker Punch. We one-shot with a Stab super effective Fly. Very nice. Wheezing is then out next. We are going to U-turn out, and we have the choice specs on 3D, and we also have the Psychic TM, so the rest of the Pokemon should be an easy one-shot. Thunder does a decent little bit of damage from Wheezing, but then we can one-shot with Psychic. Muck is going to come out next, and Muck is a little more specially defensive, but we actually one-shot it, which is crazy. 3D has been an absolute amazing addition to the team. We're not going to learn Magic Coat, and out next is Tentacruel. That is a really cool Pokemon to see on Koga's Poison-type team. We don't one-shot and it goes for a Swords Dance. Koga burns a full Restore, and then we double up on Psychic to take out the Tentacruel. Such a bulky mon. His last Pokemon, of course, is my favorite, Crobat, but we actually outspeed this bat and we one-shot with Psychic. Nice. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Bruno's fighting type team is a very scary team to deal with. Priority Fake Out does some chip, and then Choice Specs boosted extra sensories should one-shot most of his Pokemon. Hitmontop goes down, Hitmonlee comes out and is easily one-shot. Most of the Hitmons are. He does have a couple of other bulky Pokemon like Hariyama that we don't actually one-shot, but he's just trying to go for a substitute, so he can't, and Bruno burns a full Restore. We should get the double up here with extra sensory, no problem, but it was actually a range, so we KO with an extra sensory. Yeah, it is what it is. Hitmonchan is dead to one extra sensory, no problem. His next Pokemon is his Machamp, which is a very scary Pokemon, but we easily one-shot it. And his last Pokemon, I completely forgot about when I was planning. Lucario. Because we're locked in, we can't go for Heat Wave, so we're going to swap into Bird. Now, Bird swaps into an Aura Sphere that we take a lot of damage to right at half. I think a high roll critical hit would have taken us out, but no matter, a close combat one-shots the Lucario. Karen and her Dark types are up next for the Elite Four. She leads a Mightyena and I lead Bird. We trade Intimidates and then I U-turn out for massive damage and we can bring in Mongoose. Now we swap into a Super Fang, which is random as hell in my opinion, but we can take it out with a close combat from there. Losing half of our health to a move like Super Fang is just weird. A close combat also takes out the Honchkrow as it is neutral damage, and we're now at -2 special defense and defense. Spirit Tube comes out and we can't hit this thing with a Choice Band boosted close combat, so we swap into Bulldog. We swap in on a Silver Wind, do about half with Earthquake against the Spirit Tomb. It uses Embargo, so we can't use items. Oh no! Another Earthquake takes out the Spirit Tomb, and now Umbreon comes out. Umbreon's pretty bulky as a return doesn't quite do half, and then we get hit with a Toxic, which is a little annoying. I need to swap, so we're going to bring Cat in on a double team. That's perfectly fine. We can get off a Fake Out for some chip, and then Umbreon goes for Protect. That's just annoying. A return connects and takes out the bulky dog cat thing. Our next Pokemon is Houndoom. We get tagged with an Intimidate, and we actually fire off a Hypnosis. So we're going to swap into Mongoose. This is the only risk right here. Does Houndoom stay asleep? He does. Perfect. A close combat then one-shots the Houndoom, and her last Pokemon is an Absol that is dead to a close combat as well. We had some other options, but Mongoose, I just wanted to show off that much more how great of a Pokemon it truly is. The plan for Lance is relatively simple. We're going to lead 3D with the choice specs, and we should be able to one-shot his first two Pokemon. The specs are not needed to one-shot Gyarados with a quad super effective Thunderbolt, but the Charizard that comes out next, threatening with Focus Blast, is not one-shot without the specs. So we fire off a Thunderbolt, and we one-shot it. The problem here is now we are locked into Thunderbolt as the first of 2 Dragonites come out. This one has Draco Meteor, so we're going to swap into Bird, who's our most specially bulky Pokemon, tanks the Draco Meteor very nicely, and now we can pivot back into 3D. 3D should be able to tank an attack, or Blizzard just misses, and that's it. We're done. We won. All of his Pokemon go down to an Ice Beam from here, especially with the choice specs. I don't even really need him, because Quad Super Effective Ice Beam takes down both Dragonites very, very easily. Garchomp also goes down to a Quad Super Effective Ice Beam, and can't believe his team was this easy. Oh, you know what? The specs were needed for the Aerodactyl. We wouldn't have one-shot it with Ice Beam. So, doesn't matter. We win. That is it. We are now the champion. Well, I have to say this ROM hack was very difficult, but I had a ton of fun strategizing for all the different battles. We did get lucky in quite a few battles. We could have lost a lot more Pokemon than the 3 that have perished so far. There are quite a few normal types for us to catch, so we could have replaced those teammates, no problem. I did get all of the Kanto portion recorded in a timely manner, but if I don't break this up into 2 parts at this point, I'm not going to get a video out next week. There would be a lull in videos, and also this video would be very, very long. Kanto is not as cut and dry as it is in Soul Silver and Heart Gold, so I'm going to break it up into 2 parts. I hope you guys can forgive me for that. I typically like to do the Heart Gold Soul Silvers now in 1 run. We used to break them up into 2. With the way that time is going to work and the different events that we have in real life that's going on in work, I've got to do what I've got to do. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you know the routine. Leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you're new to the channel and have made it this far. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the continued support. I hiccup there. And once again, I will see you on the next one. Look at that. 69 is our time. Nice.